Roy had already come back to life 139 times. Every time he died, he woke up again on the exact same morning and had to relive the whole day. Because of this, he knew every single detail. On his 139th restart, he woke up, ducked to avoid a knife, sat up, slipped on his shoes, and dodged another attack. He stood, bent down again, and avoided the next strike. Roy knew every move the killer would make, the timing, the angle, everything. Dodging attacks became easy. He even blocked a knife using only his t-shirt. Then he poured hot coffee, took a sip, waited for the killer to stand and splashed the coffee right into his face. Right after that, an attack helicopter appeared. A second assassin inside fired a Gatling gun. Roy hid behind a pillar, knowing the first burst of bullets would kill the first assassin. And just like always, the gun jammed 8 seconds later. Roy stepped out, threw a knife, and hit the gunman right in the head. After he died, the broken Gatling gun malfunctioned, making its bullets drift off to the right. Roy simply followed the safe path. Even after all this time, Roy had no idea why people were trying to kill him. He only knew the helicopter would crash into his room in 8 seconds, the rotor blades would fall 13 seconds later, and the helicopter would explode at 18 seconds. So he jumped out the window and landed perfectly in a garbage truck. But this wasn't easy. Roy had missed that garbage truck 22 times in previous loops. Once, he even landed in the street and got flattened by a truck. Next, Roy stole a sports car. Because he kept coming back to life, he no longer cared about laws. The driver always screamed the same line, "Put me to Georgia." No one ever listened. Roy also took the man's sunglasses. Then the third wave of assassins arrived, 2 gun-toting sisters who had killed him 14 times before. And they weren't the only ones. Roy faced at least 7 waves of killers in a single day. He had been blown up twice by Kaboom the bomb expert, killed 3 times by his own clone, and died 8 times at the hands of the deadly swordswoman Guan Yin. He had managed to kill every assassin at least once, except Guan Yin. She was too strong. She always appeared out of nowhere, sliced off his head in one clean strike, and proudly declared, "I am Guan Yin, and I have done this." Sometimes Roy escaped all the killers. And what did he do then? He didn't try to solve the mystery or investigate. Instead, he went straight to a bar, asked for 2 bottles of China's strongest liquor, and drank himself unconscious. He had tried fighting before, but there were just too many assassins and they were all too powerful. He had never survived past 12:47 p.m., so eventually he gave up. Roy suspected his ex-wife, Gemma, was responsible for this loop. She was a top physicist at Dino labs. He had visited her yesterday. She looked nervous and asked him for help, without explaining why. While he wasn't paying attention, she secretly cut a lock of his hair. Then she told him, "I hope you stop wasting your life. Pull yourself together. Become the man you used to be." Roy had been in special forces before his life fell apart. After leaving the military, he became aimless and miserable, which led to their divorce. But now, for some reason, Gemma had given him another chance. Not just one, but unlimited chances. Roy tried calling Gemma, but her boss, Colonel Venter, answered. He said, "Gemma is already dead. You're next." So Venter was clearly behind everything. Still, Roy didn't have the motivation to stop him. Every day felt like hell, and he couldn't even survive the early part of the day until his 145th restart. While hiding in an underground mall, Roy unexpectedly saw his son, Joe. Roy hadn't been a good father and felt guilty, so he went to talk to him. When they eventually walked out of the underground mall, Roy looked at the time. It was 12:50 p.m. This was the longest he had ever survived. Why hadn't the assassins appeared? Then Roy realized the underground mall had no cell signal. That meant he had a tracker implanted in his body. Right then, the assassins appeared from all directions. Roy didn't run. Instead, he hugged Joe tightly. But it was too late. All the assassins fired at once, and bullets tore through Roy's back. As he lay dying, he looked at Joe. For the first time, his death didn't end with pain. Instead, he saw shock, sadness, and love in his son's eyes. And for the first time, Roy felt truly happy. Then the loop restarted, revival number 146. Roy grabbed the assassin and demanded to know how he was being tracked, but the man refused to talk even as he died. So Roy had to figure it out himself. He went to his friend Dave, a counter-surveillance expert, and asked where a tracker would most likely be hidden in a human body. Dave said, "In the teeth." Suddenly Roy remembered the attractive dentist he met last night. During their date, she had taken him to her clinic and worked on his teeth. Roy rushed to the bathroom and started pulling out his teeth one by one. Each time he pulled a tooth, he took a swig of strong liquor to numb the pain. It was unbelievably painful. Finally, he found the tooth with the tracker. From then on, Roy could predict when the assassins were coming. He used the tracker tooth as bait to lure them out and ambushed them one by one, defeating every assassin. Once all of them were gone, his next target was Venter. Venter was at Dino Labs. Roy drove straight there at full speed, planning to crash through the entrance. But instead, he slammed into a wall, crashed, and died instantly. On his next revival, Roy tried again. This time, he sped his car straight into the facility. There were more than a dozen heavily armed guards at the checkpoint. But Roy wasn't actually inside the car. He had planted explosives in it. The blast destroyed the security doors instantly. However, Roy didn't expect the head of security to suddenly appear beside him. He died again. Try again. On his third attempt, Roy killed his clone assassin and disguised himself as the clone. Using the clone's ID card, he snuck into the building and entered the elevator heading to the top floor. Inside, an armed guard asked him for identification. Roy swiped the card, but the system showed he didn't have clearance. Fourth attempt, Roy entered the elevator and shot the guard first, but when the doors opened, a whole squad of security officers stood outside with guns ready. Roy shocked everyone by shooting himself in the head before they could. Fifth attempt, Roy killed the guard again but then noticed a security camera inside the elevator. No wonder the guards always knew he was coming. Sixth attempt, Roy disguised himself as the guard much earlier, finally avoiding the camera's detection. He reached the hallway safely, only to find Guan Yin, the deadly swordswoman, waiting for him. Roy had a gun. She had a sword. The winner should have been obvious. But Guan Yin moved faster than lightning. His bullets couldn't even touch her. She sliced his gun in half and cut off his head with one clean strike. Revival 152. Roy arrived with a submachine gun and fired nonstop, but she still dodged every bullet, stabbed him in the stomach, and decapitated him again. Revival 153. Roy tried a rifle. Same result. Another clean beheading. After dying over 20 times, Roy finally realized that guns would never defeat Guan Yin. He needed a sword. So Roy went to find Dong, a legendary Chinese swordmaster who had been world champion for 12 straight years. He begged her to teach him. Seeing his sincerity, she agreed. Training began with bare hands, using fingers as imaginary sword blades. Eventually, he upgraded to a wooden sword, yet still lost badly. But day after day, his stance, timing, and attacks grew sharper. After many more attempts, he became skilled enough to train with real swords. He finally defeated Dong. Roy thanked her with deep respect and returned to Dino Labs. Inside, he faced Guan Yin again. Calmly, Roy put down his gun and pulled a sword off the wall. Guan Yin struck first, fast as always, but this time Roy stood like a mountain. In 2 moves, he sliced off a lock of her hair. They continued battling. Roy placed his left hand behind his back, using only his right hand to wield the sword. Now Guan Yin was the one struggling. His blade repeatedly grazed her throat until he finally defeated her. Then Colonel Venter appeared, an old man with white hair who wasn't much of a fighter. Roy easily subdued him. Venter, writhing in pain, realized how Roy had become unstoppable. It had to be Gemma, Roy's ex-wife, who activated Dino Labs' ultimate invention before she died, the infinite restart machine. Venter had planned to use it to rule the world. To stop him, Gemma had used Roy as the test subject instead. With a twisted smile, Venter revealed, "I also sent someone to kill your son, Joe. You're probably too late to save him." Panicking, Roy finished Venter and raced out in a car to save Joe. But he arrived too late. Joe's lifeless body lay on the ground. Roy collapsed. Even with unlimited revivals, he could never protect his own son. He felt like the worst father alive. At that moment, a massive explosion erupted in the distance. The infinite restart machine overloaded and detonated, destroying the entire city. Roy revived again. He lost all hope. So he stopped fighting. He let the first assassin kill him, again and again and again. Revival after revival. But one day, Roy suddenly stood up again. He refused to keep running. He remembered what Gemma told him, "Pick yourself up." Roy went to see Joe, the son he had neglected for so long. He talked with him, bought him snacks, played games with him. When the city exploded, Roy simply restarted the day and spent another day with Joe. And another. And another. Slowly, Roy learned what it meant to be a father. He discovered joy in their time together. Then one day, Joe mentioned something surprising. His mom had called him that morning. Roy froze. Gemma was still alive. At least every morning before 7:14 a.m. That meant Roy could still save her. He returned to the lab after eliminating Venter and his security teams. He reviewed the footage and saw Gemma die at exactly 7:14 a.m. Roy revived every day at 7 a.m. That gave him 14 minutes to save her. In the next loop, Roy raced against time. He commandeered a helicopter and ordered the pilot to fly directly to the lab. He arrived at 7:10. At 7:12, he used the Gatling gun to wipe out all the assassins in 10 seconds. 2 minutes later, he burst into the lab, clearing enemies one after another. Right before Venter killed Gemma, Roy shot Venter first. He did it. He saved Gemma and defeated Venter. Gemma hugged him tightly and whispered, "I knew you could do it." But there was still danger. The machine was close to exploding. Gemma explained that the only way to stop it was for someone to enter the machine's core. But that person might disappear forever. Roy looked at Gemma. He thought of Joe. He was no longer the broken man he used to be. He was a father, a husband, someone ready to sacrifice everything for the people he loved. Without hesitation, Roy stepped into the machine's core. A blinding light swallowed him completely. The screen faded to darkness.